So we have officially now our new Liberal cabinet that got sworn in today, and oh my God, is this long? So buckle up. The funny thing is that it's not a massive cabinet; it's a massive cabinet with secretaries of state. So we have, and I apologize when I get names wrong, I'm really bad at this, but we have Shafkat Ali, who's the president of the Treasury Board. We have Rebecca Alty, who is the Minister of Crown Indigenous Affairs. Now, she's not Indigenous, but she does have a massive background with working with Indigenous chiefs and people. And also she's from the Northwest Territories. We have Gary Andasari Saragi, who is Minister of Public Safety. We have Francois-Philippe Champagne, who is back, Minister of Finance and National Revenue. We have Rebecca Chartrand, who is the Minister of Northern and Arctic Affairs. Now, she is Indigenous. And she is also the minister responsible for the Canadian Northern Economic Development Agency. There are quite a few ministers that have specific tacked on titles that have to do with the economic development of a specific area of Canada. So she's not the only one that's the Julie Drasbuen, who is the Minister of Environment and Climate Change. Sean Fraser, who was the Housing Minister, but now apparently he's the Minister of Justice and the Attorney General of Canada, and also Minister responsible for the Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency. Now, he is from Atlantic Canada, he's from PEI, so that's perfect. Chrystia Freeland is back, Minister of Transport and Internal Trade, that hasn't changed. Stephen Guilbeault is the Minister of Canadian Identity and Culture and Minister responsible for official languages. I don't know what that all encompasses, if it includes like LGBTQ identity or other things, but I'll have to look into it a little bit further. We have Mandy Gill-Massey, who's the Minister of Indigenous Services. She is Indigenous, and I believe one of the first Indigenous people to have that role. Patty Hajdu, who's Minister of Jobs and Families, that weird title again, and Minister responsible for the Federal Economic Development Agency for Northern Ontario. Tim Hodgson, who is the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources. Now, he's that guy that was kind of friends with Carney from back in the day. He does have experience working with Hydro One. He's worked for Goldman and Sachs, so he's got quite the resume. We have Melanie Joly back, who's Minister of Industry and Minister responsible for Economic Development for Quebec regions. We have Dominic LeBlanc, who's back, and he's got a lot of titles this time. President of the King's Privy Council for Canada, Minister responsible for Canadian-U.S. trade, intergovernmental affairs, and One Canadian economy. Joel Lightbound, who was very critical of the previous Trudeau government, is now the Minister of Government Transformation, Public Works, and Procurement. I do wonder if government transformation means that he's going to be looking into like making those cuts that Carney wants to be able to, figure, like cut where money has been being wastefully spent. Okay. Heath MacDonald is the Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food. Yes, we have a guy with the last name like the farmer, Old MacDonald, running our agriculture. Steve McKinnon is the leader of the government in the House of Commons. Apparently he has been in this role prior, and he's very good at handling unruly governments, especially when you don't have a majority one. David McGuinty is replacing Bill Blair as the Minister of National Defense. Jill McKnight will be the Minister of Veteran Affairs and Associate Minister of National Defense. Lena Metlaj Diab is the Minister of Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship. Marjorie Michelle is the Minister of Health. Eleanor Oslowski is the Minister of Emergency Management and Community Resilience, and also Minister responsible for Prairie's economic development in Canada. Gregor Robertson, who used to be the Mayor of Vancouver, is now the Minister of Housing and Infrastructure and also Minister responsible for Pacific economic development in Canada. Meninder Sidhu, is Minister of International Trade. Evan Solomon, whose name you might recognize, he used to work, I believe, as a reporter for CBC, is the Minister of Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation, which Carney did say he was going to focus a lot on AI and developing law around it. And also he's Minister responsible for the Federal Economic Development Agency for Southern Ontario. Joanne Thompson will be Minister of Fisheries. I believe she was in that role before. Ricci, I think it's Ricci Valdez, is Minister of Women and Gender Equality and Secretary of State for Small Business and Tourism. So we have our Minister of Women's Affairs back in, so that's good. Now we're going to go over to the 10 Secretaries of State. Buckley Balaguer, which is Secretary of State for Rural Development. Stephen Fuhr, who is Secretary of State for Defense Procurement. Anna Gainey, Secretary of State for Children and Youth. Wayne Long, who's Secretary of State for Canada Revenue Agency and Financial Institutions. Stephanie McLean, who is the Secretary of State of Seniors. That's a new one. Natalie Prevost, who was the survivor of the Polytech shooting. She will be Secretary of State of Nature. Ruby Hatoda is Secretary of State of Combating Crime. That's kind of a new one. Randeep Sari will be Secretary of State of International Development. Adam Van Coverdon will be the Secretary of State of Sport, which is fitting. He's a former Olympian. And John Zuccarelli will be the Secretary of State of Labor. So we have a Secretary of State of Labor. We just don't have a Minister of Labor. We have a Minister of Jobs and Families. So yeah, that's a lot of people. Of course, if you notice, there are some titles that are missing. For example, where's the Minister of Disabilities? Where's the Minister of, like, diversity, equality, and inclusiveness? Like, inclusion. Definitely some stuff missing there. Now, I'm going to hope that they have been integrated into other minister roles, but I also kind of feel like when you integrate them into other minister roles, they're not going to be paid attention to as much as I prefer, especially as somebody who is disabled and a member of the Alphabet Mafia. A little bothersome that they're not there. Now, you're also going to find that there's going to be a lot of people who are saying, oh, well, why wasn't this person in the cabinet? Why isn't this person in the cabinet? Where's Katrina Gould? Why did Bill Blair get kicked out? Why did this one not get in? You know, Carney's going to pick his own people, right? Like, we're not going to have the exact same people as what we had with Trudeau. Yes, there's about 14 ministers that I think worked under Trudeau that have been brought back. But he needed to have some of his own people, because one of the biggest complaints that the Conservatives had is that we were just going to get another 4 years of the same Liberals that we've had for the last 10, and it's going to be still Justin Trudeau's government and blah, 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 blah. So he had to make changes. He had to bring in his own people to make it his own government, right? Not that that has stopped Pierre Poilievre, because he spoke in regards to the new ministers today. And other than, like, the one single moment where he said some nice things at the beginning of a speech about the ministers, he just went into the usual bash this person, bash that person, this person's responsible for this, blah, blah, blah. You know, somehow Sean Fraser is responsible for the whole housing crisis in Canada, even though it's been going on for decades and he wasn't a part of it. He wasn't the one who started it. And of course, Poilievre too was just slogan, slogan, slogan. So he really, really is. Somebody needs to factory reset, okay, Pierre Poilievre, because he's just stuck in slogan and campaign mode. It would just be nice if he could try just being a human being for once and being somewhat nice. He did say, though, that if he agrees with the ideas coming out of the Liberal government, that he will support them and stuff, but I'm not holding my breath. So, but there we go. So, they are all our new cabinet and secretaries of state, and apparently they have a meeting coming up, I think, next week. Carney's also got meetings coming up with the provinces, but Parliament is not actually back in session until the 27th. So, till then, we'll just have to kind of wait and see what's going on, and